Let's take a gentle journey now into the emerald embrace of the rainforest, where mist rises at dawn and ancient pyramids pierce through the canopy, to the world of the Maya, a civilization that flourished in harmony with the jungle's rhythm. Fact 1. The Maya homeland. Our story begins in Mesoamerica, in a land the Maya called home for thousands of years. Their civilization spread across what we now know as southern Mexico, Guatemala, Belize, Honduras, and El Salvador. Imagine a diverse landscape, steamy lowland rainforests where howler monkeys called at dawn, cool highlands where pine trees grew, coastal regions where the Caribbean Sea lapped against white sand. The Maya didn't live in just one place but adapted to all these environments, building their cities in jungles, on hilltops, near rivers and cenotes, those sacred sinkholes that opened like doorways to the underworld. This was their world, and they shaped it as it shaped them, living in balance with the forest that provided everything they needed. Fact 2. Ancient roots. The Maya story stretches back into deep time. People first settled in the Maya region around 2000 BCE, farming corn and building simple villages. But the civilization we know, with its great cities and monumental architecture, emerged during what archaeologists call the pre-classic period, beginning around 1000 BCE. Early Maya built platforms and pyramids, developed pottery and trade networks, began the long journey toward the sophisticated culture that would flower centuries later. They weren't a sudden appearance but a gradual unfolding, generations upon generations building on what came before, each adding something to the growing complexity of Maya life. Fact 3. City-states, not empire. Unlike Rome with its single capital, the Maya never united under one ruler. Instead, their world consisted of dozens of independent city-states, each with its own king, its own history, its own destiny. Tikal, Palenque, Copan, Calakmul, Caracol, Uxmal, each was a center of power, sometimes allies, sometimes rivals, sometimes enemies. These cities traded with each other, intermarried their royal families, and occasionally went to war. The Maya world was a tapestry of independent threads, woven together by shared culture, language, and beliefs, but never unified into a single political entity. Each city had its own character, its own patron gods, its own monuments proclaiming the deeds of its rulers. Fact 4. The Classic Period. The Maya reached their greatest heights during what we call the Classic Period, roughly 250 to 900 CE. This was when the grandest pyramids rose, when art and architecture flourished, when writing and astronomical knowledge reached their peak. Population boomed. Some scholars estimate millions of Maya lived in the lowlands during this time. Cities grew large and elaborate, their ceremonial centers filled with temples, palaces, and plazas. This was the Golden Age, when Maya civilization shone brightest, when kings commissioned monuments that still stand today, when scribes recorded history in graceful hieroglyphs. For over 600 years, this florescence continued, a remarkable span of sustained cultural achievement. Fact 5. Maya Kings, the Ajor. At the heart of each Maya city stood the Ajor, the divine king. These weren't simply political leaders but sacred beings, intermediaries between the human world and the realm of gods. Kings claimed descent from deities, performed elaborate rituals, shed their own blood to nourish the gods and maintain cosmic order. Their power was absolute within their city, their persons sacred. When a king died, elaborate ceremonies ensured his transformation into a god, and his successor would take up the burden of divine rulership. The king's image appeared everywhere, carved on stone monuments called stelae, painted on pottery, woven into textiles. He was the axis around which the city turned, the living connection between earth and heaven. Fact 6. Maya writing, the glyphs. The Maya developed one of the ancient world's most sophisticated writing systems, hieroglyphic script that combined logographic symbols representing whole words with phonetic signs representing sounds. These glyphs were beautiful, artistic, each one a small work of art. Maya scribes carved them on stone monuments, painted them on pottery, and wrote them in books made from bark paper called codices. The script recorded history, mythology, astronomy, royal genealogies, and sacred knowledge. 4 centuries after the Spanish conquest, the glyphs remained mysterious, unreadable. Only in recent decades have scholars learned to decipher them, and now the stones speak again, telling us the names of kings, the dates of battles, the stories the Maya told about themselves. Each deciphered glyph is a voice recovered from silence, a connection restored across centuries of forgetting. Fact 7. The sacred calendar. Time was sacred to the Maya, and they tracked it with extraordinary precision using multiple interlocking calendars. The Tzolk'in was a 260-day sacred calendar, used for divination and ritual. The Hab was a 365-day solar calendar marking the agricultural year. These two calendars meshed together like gears, creating a 52-year cycle called the calendar round. Beyond this, the Maya used the long count, which tracked time from a mythical creation date in 3114 BCE. Every day had multiple names and numbers, each carrying meaning. The Maya believed time moved in cycles, each day influenced by the gods associated with it. To know the calendar was to understand fate, to predict auspicious and dangerous times. Time wasn't something that simply passed. It was a living force, sacred and powerful. Fact 8. Corn, the sacred grain. Corn, which the Maya called Ixim, wasn't just food. It was sacred, the substance from which humans were made according to Maya mythology. The Popol Vuh, the Maya creation story, tells how the gods finally succeeded in creating humans by shaping them from corn dough. Every Maya community depended on corn, planting it in forest clearings, tending it through the growing season, harvesting it with prayers and thanksgiving. Corn was prepared as tortillas, as tamales, as gruel called atol. The cycle of planting and harvest structured the year, the agricultural calendar intertwining with religious observance. To be Maya was to be corn people, children of maize, bound to this sacred plant in ways both practical and spiritual. The rustle of corn leaves in the breeze was the sound of life itself. And so we rest here in the clearing, corn plants tall around us, their leaves whispering in the warm breeze, the sun filtering green through the canopy above, the distant call of birds and the buzz of insects creating a gentle symphony, and we breathe in the humid air, feeling the forest's embrace, letting the rhythm of this ancient world slow our heartbeat, calm our thoughts, carry us gently towards sleep. Our journey through the Maya world continues now, as we walk deeper into their daily lives, into the structures and rhythms that shaped their existence. Fact 9. Maya pyramids. Maya pyramids rose like stone mountains above the jungle floor, their steep sides climbing toward the sky. But these weren't the smooth-sided pyramids of Egypt. Maya pyramids were stepped, with wide staircases ascending the front, often at angles so steep that climbing required care. At the summit stood a temple, a sacred space where only priests and kings could enter, where rituals connected earth to the heavens above. These pyramids weren't built all at once but grew over time. Maya builders would construct a new, larger pyramid right over an older one, encasing it like layers in an onion. Inside some pyramids, archaeologists have found earlier structures perfectly preserved, ancient temples buried within newer ones, generations of devotion built one atop another. The pyramids were painted bright red, adorned with stucco masks of gods, their summits wreathed in copal incense smoke. They were cosmic mountains, access points where the human world touched the divine. Fact 10. Cenotes, sacred waters. In the Yucatan Peninsula, where rivers run underground through limestone, the Maya depended on cenotes, natural sinkholes that opened to underground water. These weren't just water sources but sacred portals, entrances to Xibalba, the underworld. The most famous, the sacred cenote at Chichen Itza, was a place of pilgrimage and offering. The Maya threw precious objects into its depths, jade, gold, pottery, and sometimes human sacrifices in times of desperate need, asking the rain god Chark to send water to their fields. Imagine standing at the edge of a cenote, the circular opening in the earth, vines hanging down the limestone walls, the water far below dark and still, holding secrets and offerings from centuries of devotion. The cenotes were beautiful and terrible, essential and sacred, windows into a realm that was both physical and spiritual. Fact 11. Maya mathematics. The Maya were brilliant mathematicians, developing concepts independently that other cultures took centuries to discover. They understood the concept of zero, representing it with a shell glyph, one of only a few civilizations to develop this crucial mathematical tool on their own. They used a base 20 counting system, probably because humans have 20 fingers and toes. With this system, they could calculate enormous numbers, tracking time across thousands of years with precision. Maya astronomers used mathematics to predict eclipses, to calculate the movements of Venus and other planets, to create calendars of remarkable accuracy. Mathematics wasn't abstract to them, but practical and sacred. Numbers unlocked the patterns of time, the movements of heavens, the cycles that governed existence. In their elegant dot and bar notation, where a dot meant 1 and a bar meant 5, the Maya counted their way to understanding the cosmos. Fact 12. The ball game. Throughout the Maya world, cities built ball courts, long rectangular playing fields flanked by sloping walls. Here they played a sacred game with a heavy rubber ball, using their hips, thighs, and arms to keep it in play, trying to send it through stone rings mounted high on the walls. This wasn't casual sport but sacred ritual, reenacting mythological battles between gods and the lords of the underworld. The game carried deep meaning. The ball court represented the portal to Xibalba, the ball itself the sun moving through the sky. Players wore protective padding on their hips and knees, for the solid rubber ball was heavy and could injure. Some games ended with ritual sacrifice, though scholars debate how common this was. The ball game was played for over 3,000 years in Mesoamerica, one of the world's oldest organized sports, and for the Maya it was theater, ritual, and cosmic drama all combined. Fact 13. Maya houses. Most Maya didn't live in stone palaces, but in houses built from the forest's bounty. Walls were made from poles tied together and covered with mud plaster. Roofs were thatched with palm fronds, steeply pitched to shed the tropical rains. These houses were cool in the heat, their design perfected over centuries for the climate. A typical house had 1 or 2 rooms, with a cooking area and a raised platform for sleeping. Families arranged their houses around a central courtyard, creating residential compounds where extended families lived close together. The design was so practical that traditional Maya still build houses this way today, using the same materials and methods their ancestors used 1,000 years ago. These simple houses, far more common than the grand stone structures that survive, were home, where children played, where meals were cooked, where families gathered at day's end. Fact 14. Jade, more precious than gold. To the Maya, jade was the most precious substance on earth, more valuable than gold. Jade's green color represented water, corn, life itself. It was the flesh of the gods, eternal and imperishable. Maya craftspeople carved jade into intricate ornaments, beads, pendants, masks. Kings wore jade jewelry, were buried with jade in their mouths to sustain them in the afterlife. The stone was hard, difficult to work, requiring patience and skill. Carvers used string saws with water and abrasive sand, slowly cutting through the stone over days or weeks. Each jade ornament represented hours of careful labor, and the finished piece carried not just monetary value but spiritual power. When light shines through thin jade, it glows with an inner green luminescence, and the Maya saw in that glow the very essence of life and divinity. Fact 15. Cacao, the food of gods. Chocolate, as we know, it is a distant descendant of the sacred drink the Maya prepared from cacao beans. These beans grew in pods on cacao trees, which thrived in the warm, moist lowlands. The Maya ground roasted cacao beans, mixed them with water, chili peppers, and other ingredients, then poured the mixture back and forth between vessels to create a frothy foam. This chocolate drink was consumed during rituals, at feasts, by nobles and rulers. Cacao was so valuable that the beans served as currency. You could buy goods with cacao beans, pay taxes with them. The drink itself was associated with gods and nobility, appearing in ceremony and celebration. It was bitter, spicy, nothing like sweet modern chocolate, but to the Maya it was divine, zocotl, the food of gods, served in painted vessels at important moments, connecting the drinker to sacred forces. Fact 16. Maya astronomy. The Maya were among the ancient world's most accomplished astronomers, tracking celestial movements with remarkable precision despite having no telescopes or advanced instruments. They observed from temple tops and specially constructed buildings aligned to astronomical events. They accurately calculated the solar year, the lunar month, and the cycles of Venus, which they associated with war and believed influenced earthly events. Maya astronomers predicted eclipses, tracked the Milky Way, which they saw as the great cosmic tree connecting the layers of the universe. They understood that celestial movements repeated in predictable cycles, and they recorded these observations in their codices and carved them on stone monuments. The night sky wasn't distant to the Maya but intimately connected to life on Earth. The stars, planets, sun, and moon were gods moving through their eternal dance, and by understanding that dance, the Maya could navigate time, predict the future, and maintain harmony with cosmic forces. And so we gaze upward with the Maya astronomers, seeing the stars scattered like jade dust across the dark vault of heaven, the Milky Way arching overhead like the great world tree, and we feel ourselves part of those eternal cycles, spinning with the Earth through darkness, held by forces vast and gentle, drifting now like planets in their orbits, moving toward rest, toward sleep, toward the peaceful darkness where all journeys lead. We journey deeper now into Maya life, into the art and beauty they created, the beliefs that sustained them, the world they built in harmony with the forest. Fact 17. Maya art and murals. Maya artists painted the world around them with vibrant colors extracted from minerals and plants. In the temples of Bonampak, murals cover entire rooms with scenes of royal life, warfare, and ritual. These paintings show us courtly ceremonies, musicians playing instruments, captives brought before kings, nobles in elaborate costumes. The colors remain vivid after over 1,000 years: deep reds, brilliant blues, warm yellows, and oranges. Maya artists had a sophisticated sense of composition and movement, capturing moments of drama and pageantry. They painted on pottery too, creating vessels covered with gods, heroes, and scenes from mythology. Each painted pot was a story, and wealthy Maya drank chocolate from cups that told tales of divine adventures. Art wasn't separate from life but woven through it, beautifying daily objects, transforming temple walls into windows on myth and history. Fact 18. The Popol Vuh. The most complete Maya creation story that survives comes to us in the Popol Vuh, the sacred book of the Quiche Maya. It tells how the gods attempted repeatedly to create humans, first from mud, which dissolved, then from wood, which lacked souls. Finally, they succeeded using corn dough, creating true humans who could speak, think, and honor the gods. The Popol Vuh also tells of the hero twins, Hunahpu and Zbalanque, who journeyed to Xibalba to avenge their father, defeated the lords of death through cleverness and strength, and ascended to the sky to become the sun and moon. These stories weren't just mythology but sacred truth, explaining how the world came to be, why humans existed, what they owed to the gods. When we read the Popol Vuh today, we're hearing echoes of stories told around fires for countless generations, wisdom preserved through time. Fact 19. Maya textiles. Maya weavers created textiles of extraordinary beauty and complexity, working on backstrap looms much as traditional Maya weavers still do today. Women spent hours at their looms, creating cloth from cotton thread they'd spun themselves. They wove intricate geometric patterns, each design carrying meaning, symbols of sky, earth, mountains, water. They used natural dyes, cochineal insects for red, indigo for blue, murex shells for purple. The finest textiles took months to complete and were highly valued, worn by nobility, offered to gods, used as tribute and gifts. Clothing indicated status. Commoners wore simple white cotton, while nobles adorned themselves with elaborate woven and embroidered garments. Though few ancient textiles survive in the humid climate, pottery paintings show us their beauty, and modern Maya weavers maintain traditions thousands of years old, each textile a connection to ancestors, a continuation of ancient art. Fact 20. Bloodletting rituals. Maya kings and nobles performed ritual bloodletting, offering their blood to sustain the gods and maintain cosmic balance. This wasn't punishment but sacred duty, intimate sacrifice connecting humans to the divine. Royal women would draw a thorn-studded cord through their tongues. Kings would pierce their genitals. The blood fell onto bark paper, which was then burned, the smoke rising to feed the gods. These rituals were performed during important ceremonies, to mark calendar events, to communicate with ancestors. Monument carvings show kings and queens in the act of bloodletting, documenting their devotion. Pain was transformative. The altered state it produced opening channels to the divine. Through sacrifice of their own flesh, rulers maintained the contract between gods and humans, ensuring that the sun would rise, the rains would come, the world would continue. It was the burden of power, the price of divine kingship. Fact 21. The Maya Collapse. Sometime around 900 CE, a transformation swept through the Maya lowlands. Within a few generations, the great classic period cities were largely abandoned. Pyramids fell silent, no new monuments were carved, populations dispersed or declined dramatically. Scholars call this the classic Maya collapse, though it wasn't a sudden catastrophe but a gradual unraveling. The causes remain debated: extended drought, warfare between city-states, environmental degradation from deforestation, loss of faith in the divine kings who couldn't prevent disaster. Likely it was all these factors combining, each feeding the others in a downward spiral. But the Maya didn't disappear. They continued in the northern Yucatan, adapted, persisted. New cities arose in different places. The civilization transformed rather than ended, though something of the classic period's grandeur was lost, and the great southern cities slowly returned to the forest. Fact 22. Tikal, the Great City. Among all Maya cities, Tikal stands as one of the greatest. Located in the rainforest of Guatemala, it was a major power during the classic period, home to perhaps 100,000 people at its height. 6 great temple pyramids rose above the canopy, the tallest over 200 feet high. Walking through Tikal's ruins today, you move through vast plazas surrounded by pyramids and palaces, climb steep stone stairs to temple summits, wander among hundreds of structures scattered through the jungle. Monkeys call from the trees, parrots flash brilliant colors overhead. Tikal dominated a large region, warred with rival Calakmul for supremacy, carved monuments recording its king's achievements. The city was finally abandoned around 900 CE during the collapse, but the stones remain, and the forest has partially reclaimed them, creating a magical landscape where nature and human achievement intertwine. Fact 23. Maya names and identity. Maya had complex naming practices that connected them to family and cosmos. A person might have several names, a given name, a family name, perhaps a nickname or title earned through achievement. Names often incorporated the names of gods or referred to the calendar day of birth. The prefix Kinich meant sun-faced and appeared in many royal names. Ladies of the court might be called Lady Six-Sky or Lady of Tikal, names that connected them to celestial forces and political power. Names weren't arbitrary labels but carried meaning, destiny, connection to the sacred calendar. When a king took power, he might take a new name reflecting his divine role. To know someone's name was to know something of their fate, their character, their place in the cosmic order. Fact 24. Palenque, City of Beauty. In the hills of Chiapas, Mexico, lies Palenque, perhaps the most beautiful of Maya cities. Its buildings show extraordinary elegance: the palace with its unique 4-story tower, the temple of the inscriptions with its great hieroglyphic panels, structures adorned with delicate stucco sculptures. In 1952, archaeologist Alberto Ruz-Lilia made an astounding discovery: a hidden stairway inside the temple of the inscriptions leading down into the pyramid to a burial chamber. There he found the tomb of Kinich Janea Pakal, one of Palenque's greatest kings, who ruled for nearly 70 years. Pakal lay in a massive stone sarcophagus carved with images of his rebirth, adorned with jade jewelry, a jade mask covering his face. The tomb was intact, one of the richest ever found in the Maya world, and it revolutionized understanding of Maya pyramids as funerary monuments as well as temples. And so we rest in that cool tomb, deep within the pyramid, surrounded by jade and silence, feeling the weight of stone above us, the accumulated centuries, the patience of earth that holds all secrets eventually, and we let ourselves sink like Pakal into peaceful rest, adorned not with jade but with the quiet treasures of memory and dream, descending gently into sleep's embrace, into the gentle darkness where kings and commoners rest alike. Let us wander now through more of the Maya world, discovering the rhythms of their days, the structures of their society, the beliefs that connected heaven and earth. Fact 25. Maya social structure. Maya society was arranged in layers, like the levels of their cosmos. At the top stood the Ajor, the divine king, along with his royal family. Below them came the nobility, warriors, priests, high-ranking administrators, who formed the king's court and managed the city's affairs. Skilled craftspeople held respected positions, scribes who could read and write the glyphs, artists who carved monuments and painted murals, architects who designed temples. Most Maya were commoners, farmers who grew the corn that fed everyone, who built the pyramids stone by stone, who wove cloth and made pottery. At the bottom were slaves, often captives taken in war. But this hierarchy wasn't rigid. Skill and achievement could elevate status, and all Maya, regardless of rank, participated in the religious life that bound their world together. Everyone had a role in maintaining cosmic balance, from the king shedding his blood atop the pyramid to the farmer tending his milpa in the forest clearing. Fact 26. The milpa system. Maya farmers practiced a sophisticated form of agriculture called milpa, still used by traditional farmers today. They would clear a section of forest, burn the vegetation, and plant corn along with beans and squash, the three sisters that grew together in mutual support. Corn provided a stalk for beans to climb, beans fixed nitrogen in the soil, and squash leaves shaded the ground, keeping moisture in and weeds down. After a few years, when the soil's fertility declined, farmers would move to a new plot, allowing the old one to return to forest. This system, called slash-and-burn or swidden agriculture, sustained millions of Maya while allowing the forest to regenerate. It was agriculture adapted to the rainforest, working with natural cycles rather than against them. In their forest gardens, the Maya also grew avocados, papaya, cacao, chili peppers, and countless other plants, creating productive landscapes that blended wild and cultivated. Fact 27. Maya warfare. War was part of Maya life, though different from modern warfare. Cities fought for territory, trade routes, tribute, and prestige. But wars also had religious dimensions, capturing enemy nobles for sacrifice, proving a king's power to his gods and people. Warriors wore elaborate costumes designed to intimidate, jaguar pelts, feathered headdresses, body paint. They fought with obsidian-bladed weapons, spears, and spear throwers called atlatls. The goal was often to capture rather than kill, for high-status captives could be sacrificed in important ceremonies. War scenes appear on monuments and murals, showing kings trampling defeated enemies, warriors leading bound captives. Yet Maya warfare wasn't constant total war but episodic, ritual-heavy conflict interspersed with long periods of peace, trade, and diplomatic marriages between royal families. Fact 28. Copan, City of Sculptors. In the green hills of Honduras lies Copan, renowned for the quality of its sculpture and hieroglyphic writing. Copan's artisans worked the local stone into three-dimensional sculptures of remarkable skill, stelae showing kings in elaborate regalia, altars carved with intertwining serpents, a hieroglyphic stairway with over 2,000 glyphs forming the longest Maya text carved in stone. The site is famous for its detailed portrait stelae, showing individual rulers' faces with such precision that we can distinguish one king from another. Walking through Copan, you're surrounded by stone that speaks, telling of kings who ruled centuries ago, their names, their deeds, their places in the sacred calendar. The city flourished for 400 years before declining in the early 9th century, but its sculptures remain among the finest examples of Maya art. Fact 29. The Vision Serpent. Central to Maya religious experience was the Vision Serpent, a supernatural creature that appeared during bloodletting rituals. After a king or queen performed auto-sacrifice, losing blood and entering an altered state through pain and blood loss, they would experience visions. The Vision Serpent would materialize from the smoke of burning blood-soaked paper, its body undulating through the air, and from its mouth would emerge ancestors or gods, bringing messages and confirming the ruler's divine connection. Monument carvings show this moment. Lady Zook of Yaxkalan pulling a thorn-studded rope through her tongue while the vision serpent manifests above her. This wasn't metaphor but real experience, the boundary between worlds becoming thin, allowing communication between human and divine realms. The vision serpent was proof that the rituals worked, that the gods heard, that the cosmic order continued. Fact 30. Maya music. Music filled Maya ceremonies and daily life, though we can never hear exactly how it sounded. We know from pottery paintings and surviving instruments what they played: drums of various sizes, rattles made from gourds, turtle shell percussion, whistles and flutes carved from bone or clay, conch shell trumpets that could be heard for miles. The Maya made ocarinas shaped like birds and animals that produced different notes. At ceremonies, musicians played while priests performed rituals, adding sound to spectacle, rhythm to ritual. Music accompanied the ball game, marked royal events, and entertained at feasts. Some pottery shows scenes of supernatural beings playing instruments, suggesting music existed in the divine realm too. When archaeologists find ancient Maya instruments and carefully play them, they're hearing sounds that echoed through plazas over 1,000 years ago, breath and rhythm connecting us across time. Fact 31. The three realms. The Maya understood the universe as having three levels, each inhabited by different beings. The heavens above were home to gods, divided into 13 layers, each with its own deities. The earthly realm in the middle was where humans lived, balanced precariously between the forces above and below. And beneath the earth lay Xibalba, the underworld, a place of darkness, challenge, and transformation, ruled by the lords of death. But these weren't completely separate. They connected through various portals. The world tree grew through all three levels, its roots in Xibalba, its trunk on earth, its branches in heaven. Caves and cenotes opened downward to the underworld. Mountains and pyramids reached upward toward the sky. The king stood at the intersection, connecting all three realms through his person and his rituals, maintaining the balance that kept the universe functioning. Fact 32. Stele, stone histories. Throughout the Maya world, cities erected stone monuments called stele, tall, carved slabs that recorded the deeds of kings and marked important dates. These weren't just historical records, but power in physical form, the king's image and achievements rendered permanent in stone. A typical stela shows the ruler in full regalia, covered with glyphs naming him, recording the date, describing his accomplishments. These were placed in plazas and at the bases of pyramids, constant reminders of royal authority. Kings commissioned stele on important calendar dates, particularly at the completion of 20-year periods called K-Atons. The stele that remain standing today, weathered by centuries but still legible, are remarkable time capsules, frozen moments of propaganda and history, royal voices speaking from stone across the gap of centuries. And so we stand before the silent stele, reading the glyphs with ancient eyes, understanding that all proclaim the same eternal truths, that kings rose and fell, that time moved in cycles, that stone outlasts flesh, and we feel our own moment in time as brief and precious as theirs, our lives as vivid, our stories as worth telling, and in this understanding we grow peaceful, accepting, ready to let our day join all the days that came before, settling like sediment, like memory, like a gentle rain into the patient earth. Our journey continues through the Maya world, into the details of their lives, the structures that organized their days, the beauty they wove into existence. Fact 41. Maya children. Maya children were cherished and considered gifts from the gods. Newborns underwent a naming ceremony 4 days after birth, when they were officially welcomed into the family and community. Mothers carried infants in slings close to their bodies, and families sometimes bound boards to babies' heads to create the elongated skull shape considered beautiful, a mark that identified someone as Maya, as civilized. Children learned by watching and helping their parents. Boys accompanied fathers to the milpa, learning to farm. Girls worked with mothers, learning to weave, cook, and manage households. Play was part of childhood too. Children had toys, played games, swam in cenotes on hot days. By their early teens, most underwent coming-of-age ceremonies that marked their transition to adult responsibilities. Childhood was shorter than in modern times, but it was still a time of learning, growing, being shaped by family and culture into a Maya person. Fact 42. The Khan Cross. Throughout Maya art and architecture appears a symbol called the Khan Cross, representing the four cardinal directions and the center. The Maya understood the world as oriented to these 5 points: east where the sun rose, west where it set, north and south defining the other directions, and the center where humans stood. Each direction had its own color, its own tree, its own supernatural patron. East was red, associated with new beginnings. North was white, linked to ancestors. West was black, the direction of death and sunset. South was yellow. The center was green or blue-green, the color of jade and life. This 5-part division organized ritual, architecture, even political geography. Understanding direction was understanding cosmic order, knowing one's place in the sacred geography of the world. Fact 43. Sakbis, white roads. The Maya built raised stone causeways called sakbis, meaning white roads for their surface of crushed limestone that gleamed in the sun. These roads connected buildings within cities and sometimes linked entire cities across distances of many miles. The longest known sakbi ran nearly 60 miles between Koba and Yaksuna. These weren't casual paths but engineered roadways, raised above the forest floor, wide enough for processions. Walking a sakbi meant traveling a sacred path, elevated above the mundane world. Important ceremonies involved processions along sakbis, rulers and priests moving between temples, the white road serving as a ceremonial corridor. Some sakbis ran straight as arrows across uneven terrain, demonstrating the Maya determination to create direct connections regardless of geography. Today, traces of these ancient roads still exist, pale lines cutting through green jungle. Fact 44. The Hero Twins. Among the most important figures in Maya mythology are the hero twins Hunahpu and Xbalanque, whose adventures appear in the Popol Vuh and on countless pottery vessels. After their father and uncle were killed by the lords of Xibalba, the underworld gods, the twins grew up to become skilled ball players. The noise of their games annoyed the lords of death, who summoned them to Xibalba to compete in a series of deadly challenges. Through cleverness, courage, and magical ability, the twins overcame every test. They survived the House of Knives, the House of Cold, the House of Jaguars. They defeated the Lords of Death at the ball game. Then through their own sacrifice and resurrection, they transformed death itself. Finally ascending to the sky as the sun and moon, the hero twins became eternal symbols of triumph over death, of wit overcoming power, of the cycle of death and rebirth that governs existence. Fact 45. Copal Incense. The scent of burning copal resin filled Maya ceremonies, rising in fragrant smoke toward the gods. Copal came from trees that grew in the forest. Their resin collected and formed into chunks that could be burned. The smoke was sacred, carrying prayers and offerings upward, creating a bridge between earth and heaven. Before ceremonies, priests would purify spaces by burning copal, sanctifying the ground. The smoke made the divine realm visible. As it rose and swirled, spirits and gods could be seen moving within it. Copal was also used in divination. Its smoke patterns read for messages. Even today, traditional Maya burn copal in their ceremonies, maintaining a practice thousands of years old. The smell of copal burning is the smell of prayer made visible, of communication between worlds, of the sacred made manifest through scent and smoke. Fact 46. Maya Beauty Standards. The Maya had distinctive ideas about beauty. As mentioned, elongated heads achieved through infant cranial shaping were considered attractive. They also valued crossed eyes, sometimes hanging beads before infants' eyes to train them to focus inward. Jade or other ornaments might pierce the septum, ears, and lips. Maya filed teeth into decorative shapes and inlaid them with jade or pyrite, transforming smiles into jewel displays. Tattoos and scarification created permanent body art. These practices seem extreme to modern sensibilities, but they represented ideals of beauty and status. A noble with jade-inlaid teeth, an elongated forehead, and elaborate tattooing displayed both wealth and aesthetic sophistication. Beauty wasn't natural but crafted, the body transformed through careful modification into a canvas displaying culture, status, and Maya identity. Fact 47. The four back abs. Maya cosmology included the four back abs, supernatural beings who stood at the four corners of the world, holding up the sky. Each Bakab was associated with one of the cardinal directions and its corresponding color. They were old gods, often depicted as elderly men bearing the weight of the heavens on their shoulders, an eternal task maintaining the structure of the universe. In some versions of the myth, they were the sons of Itsamna, the supreme creator god. The Bakabs represented stability, cosmic order, the permanent structure underlying reality's flux. They stood at the edges, defining boundaries, preventing the sky from falling and chaos from overwhelming creation. In honoring the Bakabs, the Maya acknowledged the forces that maintained existence itself, the tireless holders of cosmic architecture. Fact 48. Calakmul, the Serpent Kingdom. Deep in the forests of Campeche, Mexico, stands Calakmul, one of the most powerful Maya cities during the Classic period. Its ancient name was likely Khan, serpent, and it controlled a vast territory, fielding a huge population. Calakmul was the great rival of Tikal, and these two superpowers dominated Maya politics for centuries, each gathering allies, fighting proxy wars through smaller cities. Calakmul has over 6,000 structures spread across many square miles, connected by sakbis. Its pyramids are massive, though less well preserved than those of drier regions. Walking through Calakmul today, you're likely to encounter wildlife, howler monkeys, jaguars, countless birds. The city returned to the forest over 1,000 years ago, and now jungle and ruins exist in harmony, showing how nature and human achievement can intertwine when given time. And so we rest in that green embrace, forest and stone merged into one, pyramids like mountains, trees like temples, the boundary between human and natural dissolved by centuries. And we understand that all we build returns eventually to earth, that the forest is patient, that time transforms everything, and in this understanding we find not sadness but comfort, that we too are part of nature's cycle. Temporary forms that arise and fall and become something else, and we rest in that. Great pattern, peaceful, accepted, held. We journey deeper now into Maya life, into the sacred and the practical intertwined, into the details that made their world vivid and complete. Fact 49. The World Tree, Yaxchi. At the center of Maya cosmology stood the World Tree, called Yaxchi or Wakachan, the raised-up sky. This cosmic axis connected all three levels of the universe, its roots penetrating Xibalba, its trunk rising through the earthly realm, its branches spreading through the 13 layers of heaven. The World Tree was often depicted as a saber tree, which grows to enormous size in the tropical forests, its massive trunk and spreading canopy making it a natural symbol of cosmic connection. Kings associated themselves with the World Tree, positioning themselves as the axis mundi, the center point connecting all realms. When a king performed ritual, he became the World Tree, channeling energy between the levels, maintaining the cosmic flow. The tree was life itself, the conduit through which divine power flowed to sustain the world. Fact 50. Maya markets. Every major Maya city had its market, bustling places where people gathered to trade goods from across the region. Farmers brought corn, beans, squash, and fruit. Hunters offered deer meat, turkey, and iguana. Fishermen from coastal areas sold dried fish. Craftspeople displayed pottery, woven textiles, carved jade, and obsidian tools. Cacao beans served as currency for larger purchases. Markets weren't just economic but social spaces, places to hear news, meet neighbors, make arrangements. The air would fill with voices haggling, the smell of food cooking, the visual abundance of goods laid out on mats. Children darted between vendors. Dogs scavenged for scraps. Markets represented the web of connections that sustained Maya life, bringing together producers and consumers, highlands and lowlands, the products of different regions into one vibrant, noisy, essential gathering place. Fact 51. The Tonsu Ceremony. When Maya children reached about 5 years old, they underwent a Tonsu ceremony marking an important transition in their lives. A respected elder, often a priest, would cut a white bead that had been tied to the crown of each child's head since infancy. Girls also had a special shell removed from a cord around their hips. This ceremony was accompanied by feasting and rituals, the whole community participating. It marked the children's first step away from infancy toward their eventual adult roles. After the tonsure, children began more serious instruction in skills they would need as adults. The ceremony reinforced community bonds, religious devotion, and the progression of generations. It was one of many rituals that punctuated Maya life, marking transitions, creating meaning, connecting individual lives to the community and to sacred time. Fact 52. Yaxchilan, City on the River. Along the Usumacinta River in Chiapas sits Yaxchilan, a city renowned for its beautifully carved stone lintels depicting royal rituals. These lintels, placed above doorways in temples and palaces, show scenes of bloodletting, vision quests, and warfare. Some of the most famous show Lady Kabul Zuk, wife of the powerful King Shield Jaguar, performing bloodletting and experiencing visions of the Vision Serpent. Yaxchilan's location on the river made it a trading center, and the city controlled important routes. The site clings to hillsides above the river, its plazas connected by steep staircases. Howler monkeys call from the trees surrounding the ruins. To visit Yaxchilan, you must travel by boat up the river, approaching it as the ancient Maya did, the temples emerging from jungle as you round the river's bend, a dramatic entrance to a city where art and devotion combined in exceptional ways. Fact 53. The Tun, year-ending ceremonies. The Maya measured time in units called tuns, periods of 360 days. The ending of each tun was marked by important ceremonies involving the king, who would perform rituals to ensure the successful passage from one time period to the next. These weren't simply calendar observances, but critical moments when cosmic order needed renewal. Kings would scatter incense, perform bloodletting, erect monuments recording the date and their deeds. The completion of larger time periods, the Ka ton of 20 tons or the Bak ton of 20 K atons, brought even more elaborate ceremonies. Time wasn't automatic in Maya belief, but required maintenance through proper ritual. Each tun ending was a moment of vulnerability and renewal, when the king's sacred duty to maintain time's flow was most evident. The monuments recording these ceremonies stand today as witnesses to countless tun endings, each marked with proper devotion. Fact 54. Caves, entrances to Xibalba. Caves held special significance for the Maya, serving as entrances to the underworld. In the cool darkness beneath the earth, the boundary between worlds grew thin. Caves were places of ritual, pilgrimage, and offering. Archaeological excavations in Maya caves have found pottery, incense burners, human remains, and other offerings deposited over centuries. Some caves contain elaborate art, painted images or carved petroglyphs showing gods, animals, and supernatural scenes. In Naj Tunic Cave in Guatemala, hieroglyphic texts accompany sophisticated paintings. Caves were living places in Maya cosmology, not dead stone but breathing connections to Xibalba, where water emerged from the underworld, where ancestors dwelt, where gods could be contacted. To enter a cave was to enter sacred space, to step closer to the divine realm, and the Maya approached such places with reverence and careful ritual. Fact 55. The Madrid Codex. Another of the 4 surviving Maya books is the Madrid Codex, a bark paper book covering topics of divination, astronomy, and ritual. Its pages show gods engaged in various activities: planting, hunting, performing ceremonies. It contains almanacs for timing agricultural activities, for predicting favorable and unfavorable days, for knowing when to perform specific rituals. The artwork, while less refined than the Dresden Codex, provides valuable information about Maya beliefs and practices. Like all Maya books, it's read in a zigzag pattern, unfolding screen style. The Madrid Codex survived because it ended up in a collection in Spain, escaping the burning that destroyed most Maya books. It's a window into the practical religion of the Maya, the everyday divination and ritual that structured their lives, the belief that time and action must align properly for success. Fact 56. Itzamna, the creator god. Among the Maya pantheon, Itzamna stood as one of the most important deities, a creator god, lord of the heavens, patron of writing and learning. Often depicted as an old man with a prominent nose, sometimes with reptilian features, Itzamna was associated with wisdom and divine authority. He was said to have organized the world after creation, taught humanity writing and the calendar, and established the basis for civilization. As patron of scribes, he was invoked before writing. His consort was Nine Shell, goddess of weaving, medicine, and childbirth. Itzamna wasn't a distant, abstract deity, but actively involved in maintaining cosmic order. Temples were dedicated to him, priests invoked him in ceremonies, and his image appeared throughout Maya art. He represented the divine intellect that ordered chaos, the wisdom that made civilization possible. And so we rest in that wisdom, in the knowledge that order underlies chaos, that patterns exist even when we can't see them, that intelligence greater than ours shaped the world, and we let go of the need to understand everything, trusting in larger patterns, deeper rhythms. Like the Maya who watched the stars and saw divine movement, who counted days and found sacred numbers, we surrender to the pattern, becoming part of it, flowing with it into the peaceful darkness where all complexity resolves into simple rest. We continue our gentle wandering through the Maya world, gathering more threads of their story, more glimpses into lives lived in harmony with forest and cosmos. Fact 57. The jaguar, sacred animal. No animal held more significance for the Maya than the jaguar. This powerful predator of the rainforest was associated with kingship, warfare, the night sun's journey through the underworld. Kings took jaguar names and wore jaguar pelts, identifying themselves with the animal's power and stealth. The jaguar throne at Chichen Itza, painted red with jade spots, shows the animal's royal connection. Shamans were said to transform into jaguars, and the gods themselves took jaguar forms. The spotted coat was associated with the night sky, each spot a star. To encounter a jaguar in the forest was to meet something sacred and dangerous, a bridge between the human world and the realm of spirits. The jaguar's roar echoing through the jungle at night was the voice of power itself, reminding humans that forces greater than themselves moved through the darkness. Fact 58. Nine Shell, the goddess. Nine Shell was the Maya goddess of the moon, medicine, childbirth, and weaving, a complex deity with both creative and destructive aspects. She was often depicted as an old woman, sometimes with claws and a serpent headdress, other times as a young woman. Nine Shell controlled the rains, and in her angry aspect could send floods and destruction. But she was also the patroness of healers and midwives, invoked during childbirth to protect mother and child. Women prayed to her when weaving, when sick, when giving birth. She represented the feminine divine in its fullness, creative and destructive, nurturing and dangerous, old and young. The island of Cozumel was sacred to Nine Shell, a pilgrimage site where Maya women journeyed to seek her blessing. She embodied the complexity of existence itself, the intertwining of creation and destruction that characterized Maya understanding of reality. Fact 59. Zoltan, recent discoveries. In 2012, archaeologists made an exciting discovery at Zoltan in Guatemala, a room in a residential complex whose walls were covered with calculations and astronomical notations, including tables tracking the cycles of Mars and Venus. These weren't formal monuments but working notes, perhaps a scribe's personal workspace where astronomical calculations were refined before being recorded formally. The discovery provided rare insight into how Maya astronomers actually worked, showing their calculations in progress. The walls also contain what may be a fragment of the lunar calendar that continued for over 6,000 years into the future. Such discoveries remind us that our understanding of the Maya continues to grow, that new finds add details to the picture, that the ancient sites still hold secrets waiting to be uncovered. Each discovery speaks, adding voices to the conversation between past and present. Fact 60. Maya beekeeping. The Maya kept stingless bees in hollow logs, harvesting honey that was highly valued for its sweetness and medicinal properties. Honey-flavored foods, fermented into an alcoholic drink called balche, and was used in medicines and offerings to the gods. The bee god Amuzenkab protected beekeepers and their hives. Traditional Maya beekeeping practices continue today, maintaining knowledge passed down through countless generations. The Maya understood bees' life cycles, knew how to manage hives, and appreciated these small creatures' importance. In a world without sugarcane, honey was the primary sweetener, making bees economically important. But they were also symbolically significant. Bees' organization and industry mirrored human society. Their creation of sweet substance from flowers paralleled the transformation at the heart of Maya ritual life. Fact 61. El Mirador, the pre-classic giant. Hidden in the remote forests of northern Guatemala lies El Mirador, one of the largest and earliest Maya cities. During the late pre-classic period, around 300 BCE to 150 CE, El Mirador was a massive urban center with pyramids rivaling those of later classic period cities. The La Dantar Pyramid Complex, including its platform, is one of the largest ancient structures in the Americas by volume. This discovery revolutionized understanding of Maya development, showing that large-scale urban civilization emerged earlier than previously thought. El Mirador demonstrates that the Maya architectural and organizational achievements didn't gradually build up but emerged relatively suddenly and spectacularly. The city was eventually abandoned, the jungle reclaiming it for over a millennium. Today it's being excavated and studied, revealing the sophisticated achievements of the pre-classic Maya, ancestors of the classic period kings. Fact 62. The Paris Codex. The third surviving Maya book, the Paris Codex, is fragmentary and damaged but contains valuable information about Maya prophecy and ritual. Its pages show gods performing ceremonies associated with different time periods, particularly the Tun and Ka-Tun endings. The Codex was discovered in a Paris library in the 19th century, where it had languished unrecognized for decades. While less well-preserved than the Dresden or Madrid codices, it adds to our understanding of Maya divination and prophecy. The Codex demonstrates how the Maya used past events to predict future ones, believing that time moved in cycles and that patterns repeated. By knowing what happened during previous Ka-Tuns, priests could forecast what the current one would bring. Time wasn't random but patterned, and those who understood the patterns could glimpse the future. Fact 63. Sweat baths, pibene. Maya communities had sweat baths called pibene, small stone structures where water was poured over hot stones to create steam. These weren't just for bathing but had ritual and medicinal purposes. Women used them during childbirth and after. Sweat baths helped purify participants before ceremonies. They treated illnesses, the heat and steam believed to drive out sickness. Using sweat baths was a social activity, people gathering to bathe, talk, relax together. Some sweat baths were dedicated to gods, particularly goddesses associated with birth and healing. The practice continues among traditional Maya communities today. The heat, darkness, and steam created a liminal space, similar to a cave, where the boundary between ordinary and sacred thinned. In that steamy darkness, the body was cleansed, spirits purified, health restored through the ancient power of heat and water. Fact 64. The Hieroglyphic Stairway at Copan. At Copan stands one of the Maya world's most remarkable monuments, a stairway with every riser carved with hieroglyphs, forming the longest Maya text in stone. Built in the 8th century, it contains over 2,000 glyphs recording Copan's history. The stairway was commissioned by one of Copan's later kings to commemorate the dynasty's achievements. Unfortunately, the stairway collapsed at some point, scrambling the steps like a giant jigsaw puzzle. Archaeologists have worked to restore it, but not all glyphs can be read in their original sequence. Still, it represents an astounding commitment to recording history, literally building the past into architecture so that anyone climbing the stairs walked through centuries of recorded time. The stairway shows the Maya dedication to remembering, to ensuring their stories survived in stone long after voices fell silent. And so we climbed those ancient stairs, each step a moment in time, each glyph a voice speaking from stone, and we understand that all stories eventually become stairs for others to climb, that our lives too are steps in a longer journey, and we rest here on these worn stones, feeling the weight of all who climb before us, all who will come after, part of a procession so long it extends beyond sight in both directions, and in that endless line we find our place, and rest, peaceful in our moment on the stairs, held by all the moments that surround us. We move now through the later chapters of the Maya story, through transformation and persistence, through the meeting of worlds and the continuity that endures. Fact 65. The Spanish Conquest. In the early 16th century, Spanish conquistadors arrived in the Maya lands, bringing warfare, disease, and profound disruption. Unlike the Aztec Empire, which fell relatively quickly, the Maya city-states resisted for decades. Some cities fought, others negotiated, some were conquered and reconquered multiple times. The last independent Maya kingdom, in the Piton region of Guatemala, didn't fall until 1697, nearly 2 centuries after initial contact. European diseases devastated populations that had no immunity. Spanish priests burned Maya books as pagan, destroying centuries of accumulated knowledge. Yet the Maya adapted, survived, incorporated Christianity while maintaining traditional beliefs, preserved aspects of their culture through colonial times and beyond. The conquest was catastrophic, yes, but it wasn't an ending. The Maya persisted, and their descendants number in the millions today, carrying forward languages, traditions, and identity that connects them across centuries to their ancestors. Fact 66. Modern Maya. Today, over 7 million people identify as Maya, living primarily in Guatemala, Mexico, Belize, Honduras, and El Salvador. They speak Maya languages descended from ancient tongues: Quiche, Yucatec, Quechua, Mam, and dozens more. Traditional Maya communities maintain practices connecting them to the past. They farm using milpa agriculture, weave textiles with ancient patterns, perform ceremonies that blend Catholic and traditional Maya elements. Maya activists work to preserve languages and cultural practices, to secure land rights, to navigate the challenges of maintaining indigenous identity in the modern world. The Maya aren't vanished ancients but living people, descendants of those who built Tikal and Palenque, carrying forward a civilization that has survived conquest, colonization, and centuries of pressure to assimilate. The story of the Maya doesn't end in the past but continues in the present. Fact 67. The 260-day calendar today. In highland Guatemala and some other areas, traditional Maya communities still use the 260-day Tzolk'in calendar alongside the Gregorian calendar. Day-keepers, specialists in the sacred calendar, continue to perform ceremonies on important dates, to divine using the calendar's cycles, to help community members understand the influence of their birthday. Babies are still brought to day-keepers to learn their birthday name and its significance. The calendar that priests used over 1,000 years ago continues to turn, marking sacred time, connecting modern Maya to ancient practices. This living tradition demonstrates remarkable cultural continuity, the persistence of knowledge across centuries of change. When a modern-day keeper consults the Tzolk'in, they're using the same system ancient priests used, maintaining an unbroken chain of practice stretching back into deep time. Fact 68. Naj Tunic Cave. We mentioned caves earlier, but Naj Tunic deserves special attention. This cave in Guatemala contains some of the finest Maya cave art known, delicate paintings and carved glyphs covering its walls. The cave was used for ritual from the Classic period, with dated inscriptions spanning several centuries. Its art shows ball players, gods, scenes of ritual and mythology, accompanied by hieroglyphic texts. Some images are explicitly sexual, showing the cave's connection to fertility and creation. The cave was rediscovered in 1979, studied intensively, but tragically much of its art was vandalized in the 1980s. What survives, and the detailed recordings made before the vandalism, provide extraordinary insight into Maya cave ritual and the sophisticated art they created in these underground sacred spaces. Naj Tunic reminds us both of the Maya achievement and the fragility of cultural heritage. Fact 69. Lacandan Maya. In the rainforests of Chiapas lived the Lacandan Maya, one of the most traditional Maya groups. Until the mid-20th century, they maintained relative isolation, living in the forest much as their ancestors had, practicing traditional religions centered on forest gods and ancient sacred sites. Lacandan people worshipped at the ruins of Yaxchilan and Bonampak, sites they saw not as abandoned but as sacred places of their gods. They burned copal incense, made offerings, maintained practices linking them directly to classic period traditions. Modern roads, missionaries, and logging have brought change, and the traditional Lacandan way of life has largely disappeared. But the Lacandan demonstrate how Maya traditions persisted in remote areas, how knowledge survived, how people maintained connection to ancient sacred landscapes. They're a bridge between the classic Maya and the present, showing the continuity that underlies apparent endings. Fact 70. Maya astronomy and agriculture. The Maya astronomical knowledge had deeply practical applications in agriculture. By tracking the sun's position, they knew precisely when to plant and harvest. The rising of the Pleiades marked planting time. Solar zenith passages, when the sun passed directly overhead at noon, signaled important agricultural moments. The Maya understood that coordinating planting with rainfall patterns was crucial, and astronomical observations helped predict these patterns. This knowledge wasn't abstract but essential for survival. A farmer who planted at the wrong time risked losing his crop. The priests who maintained astronomical knowledge weren't separate from practical life but central to it, their calculations feeding the population. The grandest pyramids and most sophisticated astronomical tables all served, ultimately, to ensure that corn would grow, that people would eat, that life would continue. And now we come to the end of our journey through the Maya world, gathering the final threads, completing the story, preparing to rest in the peace that comes from understanding. Fact 89. Maya color symbolism. Color carried deep meaning for the Maya, each hue associated with directions, gods, and cosmic forces. Red belonged to the east and to dawn, symbolizing new beginnings and life force. Black was west and sunset, associated with death and warfare but also completion. White meant north, linked to ancestors and the air. Yellow was south, connected to the sun at its height. Blue-green, the color of jade and precious quetzal feathers, was the center, representing life, water, and the cosmic heart. The Maya painted their world in these meaningful colors. Temples were brilliant with red, blue, yellow. Pottery carried colored messages. Body paint in ritual followed these associations. When we see Maya art, we're looking at a world where color spoke a language, where hues communicated cosmic truths, where seeing was a form of reading. Fact 90. The long count calendar. The Maya long count tracked time from a mythical creation date corresponding to August 11th, 3114 BCE in our calendar. This allowed them to place any event in a universal time frame stretching thousands of years. The long count used nested cycles. 20 cairns made a winal, 18 winnols made a ton, 20 tons made a ka ton, and 20 kaatons made a bak ton of about 394 years. A complete cycle of 13 bak tons equaled about 5,125 years, ending on December 21, 2012, which some people mistakenly interpreted as predicting the world's end. For the Maya, it simply marked the completion of one great cycle and the beginning of another, time turning like a vast wheel, perpetual and eternal. The long count shows the Maya thinking in enormous time scales, positioning themselves in cosmic history, understanding their moment as part of patterns measured in millennia. Fact 91. Lady Kabul Zuk. Maya women could hold significant power, and Lady Kabul Zuk of Yaxchilan exemplifies this. Wife of King Shield Jaguar, she appears prominently on several carved lintels performing important rituals. One famous lintel shows her pulling a thorn-studded rope through her tongue in bloodletting ritual, the vision serpent manifesting before her. Another shows her arming Shield Jaguar for battle, handing him his war helmet. She wasn't merely the king's consort but a powerful figure in her own right, performing rituals that sustained cosmic order. While Maya society was patriarchal, women of royal lineage could exercise authority, perform crucial ceremonies, and be commemorated in stone for their achievements. Lady Kabul Zuk's portraits survive across centuries, showing us a woman who was simultaneously devoted wife, powerful priestess, and essential participant in maintaining her city's connection to the divine. Fact 92. The Grolier Codex. In 2016, scholars authenticated a fourth Maya codex, the Grolier Codex, which had been disputed since its discovery in the 1960s. This fragmentary book focuses on the Venus calendar, tracking the planet's movements with tables and images of gods. While less elaborate than the other surviving codices, its authentication added to the tiny corpus of Maya books that survived Spanish burning. Every surviving page is precious, a fragment of a vast library that once existed. The Grolier Codex reminds us that new discoveries continue, that our understanding remains incomplete, that careful scholarship can recover what was thought lost. It's also a reminder of the tragedy of the burning, how much knowledge was destroyed, how many voices silenced, how many books turned to ash carrying wisdom we can never recover. Fact 93. The emblem glyphs. Maya scholars discovered that certain glyph combinations appeared at different sites, functioning like city names or royal titles. These emblem glyphs identified which city a ruler came from. Tikal's emblem glyph includes elements meaning mutal or perhaps tide. Palenque's includes Bakal. Kopan's reads Oxwittic, possibly 3 water places. These discoveries transformed understanding, showing that the Maya had specific names for their cities and that texts recorded political geography. Suddenly, relationships between cities became clear. When one text mentions Tikal's emblem glyph at Dos Pillars, it records political connection or conquest. The emblem glyphs gave the silent stones political voices, turning anonymous ruins into known places with identities, histories, relationships. Each emblem glyph is a city speaking its own name across the centuries. Fact 94. Jibilchultun, the Temple of the Seven Dolls. In northern Yucatan lies Jibilchultun, continuously occupied longer than almost any Maya site. Its Temple of the Seven Dolls gets its name from curious clay figurines found buried there, though its ancient name and purpose remain mysterious. The temple has a unique feature. During the spring and fall equinoxes, the sun rises directly through its doorways, flooding the interior with light. Like Kaichen Itz's serpent shadow, this astronomical alignment shows the Maya building cosmic principles into architecture. The site also has a cenote that provided water for the city across centuries of occupation. Jibilchultun represents the long continuity of Maya civilization, a place where people lived and worshipped for over 3,000 years, from pre-classic times through the Spanish conquest, layer upon layer of human presence creating a deep well of history. Fact 95. The principle of Ku. Central to Maya religious thought was Kaya, usually translated as God or sacred, but meaning something more like divine essence or holy power. Ku wasn't located only in gods but could manifest in rulers, in sacred objects, in places, in times. A king was Kaya, a jade ornament could be Kaya, a cave or mountain was Kaya, certain calendar days carried Kaya. This concept meant the sacred wasn't separate from ordinary reality but woven through it, present in heightened form at certain times and places. Ritual aimed to concentrate Kaya, to make divine power manifest and accessible. The Maya world was enchanted, full of divine presence, requiring constant attention and proper ritual to maintain relationship with the sacred forces suffusing existence. Understanding Kaya helps us grasp Maya religion's sophistication, how they conceived of divinity as power that flowed through reality rather than as distant beings requiring appeasement. Fact 96. Maya legacy in language. Maya languages have given us words still used today. Chocolate comes from the Maya word Xocolatl. Shark derives from a Maya word. Countless place names in southern Mexico and Central America are Maya in origin. More significantly, Maya languages are still spoken by millions, not as ancient relics but as living tongues that continue to evolve. Children grow up speaking Quiche or Yucatec Maya, learning to express modern concepts in ancient linguistic structures. Maya poets write in their ancestral languages. Maya linguists work to preserve and document their languages, creating dictionaries and teaching materials. Each person speaking Maya carries forward a tradition stretching back thousands of years, proving that language outlasts empires, that words survive when stones crumble, that the voice of a people continues as long as someone speaks their tongue. Fact 97. The Red Queen of Palenque. In 1994, archaeologists discovered another royal tomb at Palenque, near Pacoles. Inside lay a woman, her bones and burial chamber covered with red cinnabar, giving her the name the Red Queen. Analysis suggests she may have been Tzedakh Buajor, Pacoles' wife, though debate continues. She was buried with elaborate jade jewelry, including a jade mask showing her high status. The Red Queen's tomb adds to the evidence of powerful Maya women, though her identity remains somewhat mysterious. She lies in her red-painted chamber still, jade adorning her bones, her name perhaps Tzedakh Buajor, perhaps someone else, but certainly someone important enough to be buried near a great king with honors rivaling his. Mystery and majesty combine in her tomb, reminding us that even with all we've learned, the ancient Maya still keep some secrets. Fact 98. Maya resilience. Through classic collapse, Spanish conquest, colonial oppression, and modern challenges, the Maya have persisted. Their resilience deserves recognition. They maintained languages, traditions, and identity through centuries of pressure to assimilate. They adapted Christianity to Maya worldview, creating a syncretic religion that honored both traditions. They survived disease, warfare, land theft, and cultural suppression. Today, Maya intellectuals, artists, and activists work to preserve and celebrate their heritage. Maya weavers create textiles linking them to ancestors. Maya astronomers study both ancient and modern astronomy. Maya communities navigate modern life while maintaining ties to ancient wisdom. This resilience isn't passive survival but active maintenance of culture, conscious choice to remain Maya while adapting to changing circumstances. The Maya aren't a vanished civilization studied only in archaeology. They're living people, descendants of pyramid builders, carrying forward an identity and culture that has outlasted empires. Fact 99. The jungle's return. After the classic collapse, the forest reclaimed the great cities. Trees grew through plaza stones. Roots split monuments. Soil accumulated on pyramids, allowing new vegetation to cover them. The limestone buildings that had stood so proudly became hills in the jungle, their true nature hidden under green. This reclamation wasn't destruction but transformation. The forest embraced what the Maya had built, incorporating it back into nature's pattern. When explorers in the 19th century rediscovered these sites, they found enchanted places where human achievement and natural beauty intertwined. Today, conservationists work to preserve ruins while respecting the ecological importance of the forests that cover them. The relationship between Maya buildings and the jungle that reclaimed them creates extraordinary places. Not dead ruins but living landscapes where past and present, human and natural, coexist in complex harmony. The jungle's return reminds us that nature is patient, that it reclaims all eventually, but also that what humans build can endure within nature's embrace. Fact 100. The living Maya cosmos. The Maya cosmos isn't an ancient artifact, but a living worldview maintained by Maya people today. Traditional Maya still see the world as having three levels connected by the world tree. They honor the four directions with their colors and meanings. They burn copal, consult the sacred calendar, make offerings at sacred sites. They understand that humans are made from corn, that we owe reciprocal duty to the earth that feeds us. They see time as cyclical, repeating patterns that teach if we're wise enough to learn from them. Young Maya learn from elders about sacred geography, about which mountains hold power, about how to read the natural world signs. This isn't primitive superstition but sophisticated cosmology, a way of understanding humanity's place in the cosmos that emphasizes connection, reciprocity, balance. The Maya cosmos continues because Maya people continue, maintaining wisdom that stretches back thousands of years, offering insights our modern world desperately needs about living in harmony with nature, about maintaining balance, about understanding our place in patterns larger than individual lives. Long, gentle pause. And so we come to rest at journey's end, having walked through the green world of the Maya, through their pyramids and palaces, their sacred cenotes and ball courts, their rise and transformation and continued presence in the world. We have seen a civilization that measured time in thousands of years, that read divinity in the stars, that understood humans as corn transformed, that maintained cosmic order through ritual and sacrifice, that built in stone while living in harmony with forest. The Maya sleep now in their ancient cities, return to the jungle's embrace, and we sleep with them, held by the same earth, dreaming beneath the same stars they watched so carefully. The world tree grows through all three realms, its roots in Xibalba, its trunk on earth, its branches in heaven, and we rest at its base, sheltered by its presence, part of the pattern it represents, connected through its axis to all that is above and below. The sacred calendar continues turning, days carrying their meanings, time moving in its eternal cycles, and we let go into that movement, releasing our grip on linear time, accepting the circle, the return, the pattern that repeats and renews. The corn grows in the milpa, rain falls from Chark's store, the sun travels through Xibalba each night to be reborn at dawn, and we too are part of these cycles, our lives small stalks in the great field, our days drops in the endless rain, our waking and sleeping like sunset and sunrise. Rest now. Rest deeply. In the green embrace of the forest, the cool darkness of the cave, the patient silence of stone. The Maya endure, and their wisdom whispers still, that we are nature's children, that time moves in circles, that balance sustains all, that the sacred lives in earth and sky and the human heart that connects them. Sleep peacefully, surrounded by ancient stones and living traditions. Held in the pattern that continues. Part of the story that never ends. Good night.